Kia ora, Denny in Queenstown here. Okay, so being a real estate agent, there's lots at play with what's currently happening out in the world and in New Zealand, and lots of moving parts. So this is a bit of a video of my download to you about what's happening and what is potentially going to happen. It's a bit crystal ball, and I wish I had a crystal ball, but yeah, so just a quick video to give you a bit of an outline from my perspective. Oh, whoop, I've been working in the garden, so here in a minute, let's change this. That's better. Okay, so the download from my perspective, if you don't know me already, local, born and raised Queenstowner, and been selling real estate successfully for 15 years. So, but this is unprecedented. We've never had this happen before, where everything's stopped. So all the moving parts are currently not moving. There is one part that's still moving, and that is the requirement to keep servicing the debt on mortgages, whether that is an investment property and then there's tenants in play, or your own occupier, and obviously your job's been put on hold, you're still having to pay your mortgage. There's been the term mortgage holiday touted around a lot of places. I prefer to call it mortgage deferred payment, as most of you who have a mortgage do know. The ins and outs of the mortgage holiday is actually that you still have to pay and service the interest, but you get a break from it, but it piles up at the end. Once we're out of lockdown and the wheels of economy start turning again, one of the first things that will kick the real estate market into action is banks' ability to lend, and them feeling comfortable with people servicing the debt on the money that they borrow. One being owner-occupiers' job and their job security moving forward. And then the second will also be investment property buyers, tenants being able to service their rent, and also, especially like I'm sort of talking about Queenstown especially, all our eggs are in the tourism basket. Even if somebody's business isn't directly associated with tourism, it is by default associated with tourism. So rental investment properties, rentals have, sorry I'm downloading, right? Rental investment property has been going really well in Queenstown over the last little while, on the basis that rents are really high. Decent three bedroom house is anywhere from $8 to $8.50 in Queenstown per week. So that's changed. The reason that's changed is the tourism tap has very much been turned off, and unfortunately is likely, even once we're as a nation out of lockdown, the tourism tap is likely to stay off or slowly come on, meaning that Queenstown has a surplus of short-term rental properties, Airbnb properties. It was going really well for a lot of investment owners because they were getting huge yields out of those properties. There is now no rental return, so those products, those short-term rental products in Queenstown, have now moved into the long-term rental pool. So it's saturated the long-term rental pool in Queenstown. Hopefully a lot of owners of investment properties holding long-term tenants were smart enough during this lockdown period to consider adjusting the rents and keeping those tenants on, because once we come out of lockdown, they're going to have a lot of choice, because that saturation coming from Airbnb to the long-term rental pool, those people need to service their debt, need to service their mortgage, they need somebody in the house. Having someone in the house is better than having no one in the house. So that's kind of that structure. What else? So there's the banks, and then the ability to service debt, and then the next one is buyer confidence. We may, hopefully it just kicks back into normal and things are much the same as they were. However, borrowing large sums of money and the ability to pay that money back by servicing the debt is going to be a big consideration. That may be quite a big factor for people now. So yeah, the next thing is buyer confidence, and buyers wanting to feel like they're getting fair market value. So that's the magic the magic pyramid, if you will, of real estate. For real estate agents, it's really important. You'll often hear agents say the market is the market. It's all about fair market value. Because we're unsure where prices may go, obviously there's a few people out there that would love buyers would love them to come down substantially. Owners want as much, so they're always high. The fair market value triangle is if you are going to list a property at fair market value, right in the middle, you're going to get about 60% of the buyers. If you list it 5% under market value, perceived market value, then you're going to get 85% of the buyers. If you are 5 or 10% above market value, which through human nature, a lot of sellers always are. If it's $1 million house, they want 1.1, 1.2. If it's a $700,000 house, they want 750, 800. It's just human nature. And the other way around, buyers are always trying to buy under. Our job as agents is to try and bridge that gap somewhere in the middle. People talk about correct price positioning and wanting multi-offers, but when I'm talking to sellers, what I would like them to list it for, to create multi-offers, they don't want to hear about it. So, okay, so we've got price positioning, fair market value. It might take a few months, or a month at least, of transactions out there in the marketplace, wherever the market may be, in Queenstown, in Auckland, wherever your marketplace is. It's going to take a few transactions to try and find that new normal. So trying to find the new normal will then dictate where fair market value is. A few factors and the moving parts of how are we going to derive that fair market value is how quickly the market saturates, depending on where you're looking. Again, if a few people, unfortunately in Queenstown, that may be under pressure, maybe they have utilised their equity in the past and they now carry quite a large portfolio of rental properties, they might be under, one, a bit of pressure. Hopefully if they're smart, not too much pressure, but they're trying to be smart in lowering their debt component and actually extracting equity. So equity is the part of the property that is the owners, not the banks. Through market growth, a lot of people get to sort of have that equity. Often they won't cash that equity in, meaning a pile of cash in their hand and stick it in the bank or stick it under their mattress. They will use it to leverage to buy more property, continuing and growing their portfolio. When you look at how much they own versus how much the bank owns over their entire portfolio, it's probably more the banks, meaning the LVR ratio is more in the bank's favour. People are going to look to probably cash some of those assets in if they haven't already. So you've got to find, cash is king, gets used a lot in real estate. I tell you what, man, now is going to be cash is king. Some sellers in the current market are hopeful that we can still create transactions even now, and some sellers are saying, well, can you go out there and find those buyers that have cash, that have $1 million in the bank? Imagine that. Those people generally are the super smart, super frugal people that look for situations, unfortunately, like this, or when there is a big imbalance, things take a big dive, that's when they jump in. They make their money when they buy. So I would be very surprised if someone who is a very smart, astute person and frugal with the cash in the bank was going to jump in right now as soon as the markets open their doors for business again. Would be very surprised if they are going to want to pay fair market value when we don't really know what that is. Let's say I have a $1 million property and the owners are like, you know what, we're out of here. We want to move to the West Coast. We're selling up. We'll take 900. So then I expose that to the market at 900. There's going to be that sector of cash buyers, full cash buyers, that are going to go, well, 900, okay, it was $1 million, now you're advertising at 900, well, they take 750 because they are, I use the term, they're looking for blood on the floor. They've got a mop and bucket and they're ready. Sounds harsh, but that's the truth. So that's that sector of buyer. Again, most of the people need to borrow money from the bank. So the key thing is going to be, with all these moving parts, is going to be banks being comfortable about lending money. Job security is going to be key, whether it's investment, property buyers or owner-occupier buyers. The one thing that's going for us in New Zealand, I think, is the fact that it's New Zealand and we're very, very blessed to have a low population density and smart government. commend the government for locking this down and hopefully you know, dropping that curve, flatlining it hopefully. And so in the past, when there's been big global events, 9/11, you know, SARS, all these other kind of things, people do actually look pretty favourably upon New Zealand. Again, there goes the DIY again. People look favourably to New Zealand as a safe haven. You might find expat Kiwis. I try and think of things from my own perspective. If I was a New Zealander doing well overseas, making good money, and now I was shut down in an apartment somewhere in Asia with my family, and I didn't have a place to call home to come back to in New Zealand, I would be buying something as soon as possible, and I'd either forego all that money and I'd come home and wash dishes or do whatever it took to look after my family. But to be in a beautiful position here in Aotearoa is a huge benefit, and that might be something that will drive the market. Again, you're probably well aware that currently only people who have residency or citizenship in New Zealand, Australia or Hong Kong, Singapore, sorry, can buy in New Zealand. I'm not sure whether the government will move to change that to try and keep the wheels kind of turning, but that's where we're at the moment. But if I was anywhere else in the world as an expat Kiwi, Aussie or Singaporean, I would want to come back here. So that's probably going to be a pretty active part of the market. Currently, there's very few transactions taking place from, you know, my intel anyway, out in the market, but there is heaps of buyers having a good look. This is when, here I am doing a video for you, this is when video is critical, and video should have been an essential part of any real estate agent's tool belt, but if it is not from now moving forward, you're a muppet. Get a GoPro and do a full video tour of the house. Good opportunity to get a bit of profile for themselves and for the house, but it's really important to be able to shoot that video of the whole property. Currently we can't inspect people's homes, but if you have a full video tour, it's really helpful to get a feel for where you're at. So that is a very lengthy download of where I see the moving parts. Most of them are frozen parts, some are still moving, but once we kick back into gear and all those moving parts start working together, there will be a little bit of disruption while we work out where that fair market value is. I'm always keen to help. I hope everyone's well positioned, but if there is a need to sell your home in Queenstown, I'm always here. Have a talk, give me a call at any stage. Use whoever agent, whichever agent that you want, but I'm always going to be straight with you. I was born and raised, and I'll spend the rest of my days here. It's a full-on time for everybody, and I hope everyone's looking after themselves. And yeah, you know, I'm going to do all I can to help people if they are in strife, and hopefully we can get through this together, and everyone can keep their shirts on their backs. Much love. Bye.